there, it's Hope. I wanted to show you a tutorial on how to get started with Rapid Calc. I've learned that I really promote this app, but I kind of underestimate the complexity of it. I think when I think back on it, it actually took me a really long time to learn and figure out, and I didn't factor that in. So I'm going to do a quick tutorial and to teach you how to use it. So first, obviously, you want to download the app, and once you download it, you want to open it up. So here we go. Only use values agreed with your diabetes healthcare professional. So one thing about this app that I think you might find confusing is it uses terms that a lot of us don't know. Like, I had to teach myself some of this because a lot of it is information that I guess isn't conveyed. So I'll explain all the different units and what the questions mean and all that fun stuff so you can get started to having hopefully better diabetes management. All right, so I'm going to clear that out, and we're going to start with units and limits. Okay, the first thing is blood glucose units. This is all dependent on where you live and where you're located. So for me, I use milligram to deciliters. But if you're in another part of the country and you say your meter doesn't read 120 or 100 or 250, but rather it reads 4.8 or 5.0, then you're going to change it to millimoles per liter. And I actually think that's correct. So then you're going to do carb units. So what I like to do for this is I do it by the gram. So you'll see I selected grams, but if you don't want to be that precise, like I give insulin even in half units, even though I'm using syringes, and if you use pens, you can't do half units, but I think you want to be as precise as possible, so you would like to select grams. But again, you can hit 10-gram portions, and it'll tell you that, changing your carb ratio will clear your current carb ratios. Make a note before proceeding. So we're just getting started, so no big deal. Carb ratio measurements. You're going to do a gram per unit because most of us count carbs in grams, and we give units of insulin. In your A1C, here's that millimole thing. So if you're in the US, you use a percentage. I know that much. But if you don't see an A1C as percentage and you use millimoles, then select that. And then smallest pen dosing size. I have mine set at 0.1 just because I like to know how accurate it is. If you've ever been on a pump, pumps are so precise. And so I pretend that Rapid Calc is a pump for me. So I'm going to be as thorough as possible. And then limit max RAI dose. So RAI is rapid acting insulin. So basically, if you were to eat and you put your blood sugar in and you said you had 30 carbs and it told you to take 15 units and you did that, and then 10 minutes later you ate 20 more carbs and it told you to take 10 units of insulin, it can tell you, you can have it tell you like, yo, you can't exceed 30 units of insulin, I'm not going to let you do it. Or you can be smart and be careful about your dosing, but if you want to have a limitation, which pumps do that as well, then you can just turn that on and set your max dose to however many units you want. I don't do that. The way Rapid Calc works is if you put your blood sugar in and you say you have 10 carbs, it's going to tell you, and I'll show you this on another screen, it's going to tell you how much insulin you should take, but it automatically takes out the rapid acting insulin, so you're not stacking insulin and risking the potential of going low later. Okay, so that's units and limits. That is step 1. Hit the arrow down at the bottom, and now we are on blood glucose thresholds. So basically, you want to think, if you've talked with your doctor, definitely go with what you and your doctor have decided. I'm going to just tell you what mine are, and you'll see, you're getting raw and real with me. You're seeing how I take care of my diabetes, what all my measurements are, and all that fun stuff. So my lower ideal level is 75. My upper ideal is 150. Some people, they have 80 to 250. It really depends on how used you are to having tight control. And if say you're running high a lot, you don't want to have a super tight range and have a low target blood glucose goal, because you're going to feel low and kind of crummy all the time until you slowly get your blood sugar down. So those are my ideal levels, and then a hypo warning level. I say 70, but I'm kind of, if I'm below that, I definitely know to eat something. If I'm at 70, I usually maybe have like one glucose tab or just a few carbs. Ketone warning level, I put 200. You typically, if you've talked to your doctor, typically ketones, they don't ask you to test your ketones until you are 250, but I want my management to be tight. So I set mine at 200. That's step 2. Step 3, here are where you put in how you eat and times that you eat. So I put my breakfast start time at 7:30. This is not always consistent, but my insulin to carb ratio is the same for breakfast and lunch, so it's not going to alter how much insulin I get. My morning I keep as 10, lunch I keep as 12, afternoon I keep as 2, dinner 5, overnight 10. So the only thing I changed was breakfast. And to explain this a little bit more, if you eat breakfast between 7 and 10 a.m., you're going to be giving the insulin dosage that is your insulin to carb ratio between that time, between your breakfast time that you're going to put in, I think, on the next screen. If you take insulin between 10 and 12, you could potentially be taking a different insulin dose depending on what your insulin to carb ratio is. So these are basically breaking down when your insulin to carb ratio may change. But again, I keep all this the same. For target blood sugar level, okay, so for target blood sugar level, this is super important to do based off what you and your provider have decided, or if you feel comfortable, maybe your provider and you have decided on 125, 130, and you think you could go down 5 milligrams or 5 millimoles, then trickle down, but make sure that you are doing this safely. So mine, I have 110, whoops, 110, 110, 110, and then 115 and 120. I tend to go low at night, so I increase my goal target blood glucose level. And just so you know, this is really cool. I like this because if you change this at all, your Rapid Calc app will adjust your insulin accordingly. So say you've been running high in the 180s and you want to set your target at 150. And you notice over time you're getting better blood sugars, and then you want to trickle it down to 130 or 120, you can make the changes here and your Rapid Calc will adjust accordingly. So step 5 are your correction factors. And this is different for everybody. So I have mine set to 1 for every 30 over my target range. So, and in case I'm not explaining it well, you always see too at the top of the screen, it tells you, it defines what a correction factor is and how it kind of works. So at any point in time that you feel confused, this app does kind of break it down for you. So mine's 1 to 30 throughout the whole day. And basically, this means that for every 30 milligrams over my target blood glucose range that I am, I'll get 1 unit of insulin. All right? All good? Awesome. Okay. Carb ratios. So this is where you do 1 unit per blank grams of carbs that you eat. For me, breakfast is 8, morning 8, lunch 8, afternoon 8, dinner 10, and overnight 10. A lot of times, if you see your doctor, they only give you breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe a snack one. So between breakfast and lunch, I keep it the same because they don't provide you the intermittent insulin to carb ratio. So that's what I do. And again, talk to your doctor, or you can play around with it a little bit by yourself, but just practice safely. And now we're almost there. Is your insulin usage profile. So this is kind of tricky. It can be really tricky. I'm going to tell you how I have mine set up, and you can talk to your doctor about this or research a little bit more about how a typical insulin reacts to most bodies. From what I know, most of our insulin stays in our body or has an effect for 4 hours. So I don't use hour 6 or 5, and I start with hour 1 and I keep it at 15. Hour 2 I put 40. Hour 3 I have at 30. And hour 4 I keep at 15. So I'm really just playing with hours 2 and 3. And I do this because from what I've been taught and what I know, we have usually 4 hours is how the insulin stays in our body. At hour 2 is when our blood sugar peaks, and that's when our insulin is going to kind of react the most. So when my blood sugar is peaking, my insulin's peaking, and then it's going to start dying off. This isn't really something probably a doctor will provide you with, but research the insulin that you use, see how long it's supposed to last, and go from there. I don't think this is the most influential part of the app for your diabetes management. So if it confuses you at all, don't worry. If you want to follow mine, but this isn't what's going to be a huge make it or break it deal for you. The biggest thing that it does is it helps Rapid Calc figure out how much rapid acting insulin you have left on board, which, as I stated previously, if you give insulin within that 4-hour window after giving an injection, then it's going to subtract the amount that's on board. Okay, exercise adjustments. I actually don't use this at all because I've learned how my body responds to exercise. And again, this is trial and error completely. But if you've kept up with Hopeful Health at all, I teach you how our bodies respond to exercise and how you can personally eat or how you can change your insulin dosing before exercising. So I don't mess with this. If you want to, or if you and your doctor have a plan of how to reduce your insulin, then totally enter that there. But this can be completely avoided because you don't have to add exercise to your Rapid Calc at all. Okay, basal insulin dosing. So this is how many times a day you take your basal insulin, aka your Lantus or Levemir. I take mine once a day. Sometimes I'll do twice a day, but all in all, I take once a day because I use Lantus. Levemir is more common to take twice a day, so if that's the case for you, then that's all you got to do. I'm going to keep it at 7 a.m. and I put the amount that I'm currently taking. Now for me, this changes a lot. My dosing amount, it changes depending on the day of the year, the week of the year, the day of the month, whatever. So you can always come back in here and change how many doses you're taking, the time, and the amount of units. And the cool thing about putting in the dose time is it will remind you that, hey, it's time to take your basal insulin, don't forget. And I think that's so important because I don't know about you, but I have forgotten to take my Lantus before. Okay, home stretch. I think the next one is about the reminders. Yeah, so I totally always want to remember to take my basal insulin, and then it can remind you to check 2 hours afterwards. I'm a big fan of this because that's so important to see how your body's responding to your food, especially if you had a high carb meal. So I would encourage you to set that reminder on there and do it 2 hours post meal. Lastly, your personal details. So I'm not going to enter this, but you need to. I would encourage you to. All you do is enter your username, which can be whatever you want it to be, and then an email address. and it's going to have you enter that twice. And the purpose of this email address, which I'll show you something really cool, is so that you can export all your data into an Excel file basically, and it'll be emailed to you, and then you can send that to your doctor. Or if you just want to look through it, you can look through it. So pretty darn awesome. Then you hit done. Oh, I gotta enter something. Okay, let me enter something. This is like a non-existing email for me. I don't even know if it's real anymore. Okay, there we go. So that shows all those green check marks mean you are done. Hit the done button at the top corner, and there you have it. This is the home screen. You can see my goal blood sugar is right there in green, and say I was 200, you'll notice it's going to turn red because that's like, hey, you're really high, and then once I go below, it'll turn yellow, and then if I hit my 150 goal range and under, I'm green. And then this little hamburger is where you slide it to say how many carbs you had. And once you do that, you'll see that over under suggested dose, you'll see it's telling you to take 2 units, me to take 2 units for my 17 carbs, and factor in a correction for my blood sugar because it's a little higher than 110, and it's telling me to take 2.8 units. When I hit save, I can go to 3 units. If you have a pump and you want to use this, then you can probably give 2.8. And if you find it annoying, say it tells you to take 2.3 and you are like, well, I should take 3, and you don't want to hit like this, and you want to change your dosing to half a unit, remember you go back here, units and limits, and you can change that to half a unit. Just so you know, because I know sometimes this stuff gets tedious. And up here on the top right hand corner is where it usually tells you to take your basal dosing, and that's when at 7 a.m. it'll tell me to take 24 units just like this, and I'll just hit save and be good to go. And planned exercise I don't ever use. If you ate and you didn't check your blood sugar, you can check this box and say you had 18 carbs. It'll tell you that you need to take 2.2 units, no correction because it doesn't know what your blood sugar is, and that I don't have insulin on board right now. And another cool thing is it does factor in alcohol if you drink, because you know alcohol does affect blood sugar, and it also factors in if you had a low blood sugar in the past 6 hours. A lot of times, if you enter a low and you hit save and you save it to your Rapid Calc, you'll see that the hypo in the last 6 hours is already checked. Well, my body, and this is different for everyone, my body recovers from lows pretty quickly, and I don't find that it lingers. So if I check an hour, hour and a half later, I'm going to uncheck this and make it correct for whatever it usually does, because I've noticed that not adjusting for higher blood sugars, just because I was low 6 hours before, really is not beneficial to me whatsoever. And lastly, let's see, I don't have, this is brand new, just like what you're dealing with, so I can show you how this should work. You would hit this calendar. I just saved that low blood sugar. Say I made another one, 253. Confirm. Okay, so now I hit the 27 down in the bottom left-hand corner, and you see my 2 blood sugars. If you hit stats, it shows you your average, how many you've had in range, what your A1C should roughly be, average daily dosing, average carb intake, all that fun stuff. And then if you hit the more button by blood glucose, it'll show you the 7-day average, 30-day average, and 90-day average. And the other cool thing is if you hit back so that you're looking at this screen, you will see where it says chart. And the chart is neat because obviously I only have 2 blood sugars here, but it will show you how your blood sugars are doing, and after you get more data points, it'll start to show a trend, which is pretty cool. And then the backup and export button, these are the last two buttons I was going to show you, is if you hit it and I hit backup, you'll see an email will pop up and it's already going to have my email address typed in. So all I have to do is hit send and it's going to be sent to me. And now if my doctor wants it, I can just forward it to them and they're going to have a nice Excel spreadsheet. I do have to tell you that backup versus export, they are not the same. I can never remember which one's ugly and which one actually is nice. One is like a nightmare to look at and the other one is a very pretty Excel spreadsheet. So export them both and send them both to yourself and then look at them before sending them to your doctor. So that is everything here on this app. I hope that was a helpful tutorial and good luck with it and let me know if you have any other questions. Oh, and this question mark here down at the bottom, this help. I actually did read all this and I know it's a lot of information, but if this tutorial didn't help you as much as you were hoping, this literally answers any and all and more questions than you could ever think of. So that question mark down at the right hand corner is invaluable. All right, I'll see you later.